Game day brings its ups and downs, celebration and disappointment, anxiety and relief, friends and enemies. You can always argue over who should have won, but everyone can agree on great food. Appetizers, entrees, drinks, party platters, or even the taste of sweet victory. There's something for every season at Eat With Us restaurants.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Well, good Thursday evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. Thank you so much for supporting us here in the Room to Room Weather Center, as you do so often. Unfortunately, the pattern is going to get more active over the course of the next few days as severe weather chances build in, not just for this weekend, but I think even more significant ones potentially next week. We will look at both of those threats coming up here in a couple minutes. But we're talking Saturday first. Our severe weather threat, level 2 out of 5. This was upgraded through the day today by the folks at the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. Does include basically I-55 west. I mean, it does go all the way to the Lafayette and Pontotoc County line, does parts of Calhoun County out to Tala County, so not exactly I-55. But ultimately, this is a sign that a greater number of reports, including damaging winds and perhaps even a brief tornado possibility out of this storm system coming in this weekend, Saturday in particular. Not a high risk, not a high likelihood, but a possibility that some of us have some impacts here. So we expect the exact edges of this risk area to be adjusted the next couple of days as we get closer. But the main thing is a line of thunderstorms will move in on Saturday. It has slowed down a little bit, but that line of thunderstorms will be the focal point for any severe weather we end up seeing. Storm Finder will help us track the intensity on that. That's exclusive. You'll see only on Mississippi Live. We'll have that coming up here in a couple of minutes. Our triple threat, again, another Mississippi Live exclusive. We're highlighting the peak impacts. And I'll tell you right now, they are not impressive looking at triple threat at this point. I think that's one of the things to keep in mind. This is probably not a high-end severe weather event, but we're more concerned we could have one that's more likely to produce tornadoes and really all forms of severe weather. We're looking at that strongest threat next week. We're talking about that coming up here in a few minutes. The first 12, though, nothing of that sort ahead of us for tonight. We're limited on any rain chance, and honestly, 10% probably overdo it. We'll look at Mama Justice Doppler radar with that in a minute. 73 at 7, we're 66 by 10, and drop into the low 60s by early tomorrow morning. Anytime you start in the low 60s, that's a pretty decent amount of humidity out there. As you can see, our average, our normal for this time of year is 41, so running way above that for today. Our high, 80 degrees officially at Tupelo Regional Airport. And you can see 63 where we should be. Not quite breaking a record from back in the 30s, only 1 degree off. And it wasn't just in Tupelo, all across the region we were warm. You can see one of the warmest spots there out in Grenada and Greenwood coming in 85 degrees. So, whew. It was a bit toasty today, certainly above what we typically expect for this time of the year. And right now, temperatures still coming in about 80 in Grenada, 80 in Clarksdale. We're 74 Tupelo and 73 degrees in Amory as of the 6 o'clock hour. Warm weather fans certainly getting their money's worth out of this. Amory, we're looking again 73. Those winds have calmed down over the last hours or so, and just that mix of clouds all flat, showing no vertical development, meaning not developing any sort of showers out there based on what we're looking at there. Did have a little smoke plume. I'll go back one graphic here to show that here briefly. We've had some of these recently. You can see one right there, fairly small, so hopefully that's a controlled debris pile there in Monroe County. Just got to be careful with outdoor burning considering how breezy we've been, but a beautiful shot here from the clouds in West Point. Again, appreciate North Mississippi Storm Chasers for pairing up with us on these cameras. That last little bit of red glow on those high cirrus clouds showing up as of now, about 6:05. And in the Pontotoc area, again, kind of a hazy look, 73. That measure of moisture, that dew point at 61, one of the limiting factors on a high-end severe weather chance. But Mama Justice Doppler radar showing there's not really much out there. That we'd have a couple sprinkles out closer to, say, some locations back toward around Clarksdale and Shelby. I think that's probably even overdone on that. Let's go ahead and put that in the motion there. As we kind of have multiple radar sites here looped on top of that. I mean, maybe a sprinkle, but that's probably overdoing it on that description there. So let's go wide on this. Let's look at our U.S. map on this and talk about kind of the components coming into place. So one thing that's not immediately evident on here, obviously we have active weather on the plains. This will be our front that causes more significant weather by the middle part of this week. But as I change our satellite over here to our water vapor perspective, I want to look at this dip, see what we have back out there toward Los Angeles. This is one of the key components to our overall forecast, because this right here is a big dip in the jet stream. So we have kind of a little dip right there. This is what we're going to call a cutoff low. It's going to get kind of cut off from the main upper level winds. They're going to kind of be this direction. Next week, right there, when that arrives, we will have enhanced storm chances. It probably takes until the middle of next week, but the timing on that is something that is subject to change, because cutoff lows are lazy. They come through when they want to, and they don't when they don't want to. We might have a bit of time before that is the case. So as we kind of bring it back here into Mississippi and look at tonight, you might imagine not much out there, maybe a sprinkle, and honestly, that's probably overdone. A better chance out closer to Natchez and Vicksburg and back in the southern part of the state to see perhaps something. So we're cloudy, but not seeing real meaningful moisture. The green you see on here is some of that moisture returning from the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, maybe a couple sprinkles. I mean, down toward New Orleans, there's rumbles, but that's not something most of us will see as those clouds thickening up by early morning on your Friday. Our meteorologist Maggie McCauley will be tracking any issues we have with that, but not expecting any thunderstorms out there to begin your Friday. So as we look hour by hour at the forecast into your Friday during the day, maybe a very limited chance to see some sprinkles by midday. More likely as we head toward afternoon to have some thunderstorms. We're once again low 80s, once again within a couple degrees of a record high. And we're hopeful that those isolated thunderstorms avoid our Mississippi Live Game of the Week presented by Casey Lott, which have that in Houston. We'll look at that forecast coming up here in a couple minutes, but we're 76, as you can see, at 6 p.m. and 69 by 9. I think late tomorrow night, a front gets closer to us that by Saturday is going to be much more effective in producing a lot of rainfall. We'll look at rainfall totals with this system. We'll also track with our exclusive Storm Finder and Triple Threat where the peak impacts and likelihood to see some of these thunderstorms are all going to come into play as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center in 60 seconds.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
As a bankruptcy firm, Mitchell, Cunningham & Bowling realizes many people are worried about their finances. We're here to guide you through the next steps to restart your life with easy video appointments. New clients don't have to leave home to get information about becoming debt-free. Also, convenient in-office appointments are available at the low cost of $340 upfront for a Chapter 13. You can be on your way to being debt-free. Contact Mitchell, Cunningham & Bowling today or visit our website at mcdebtfree.com. We are here to help you.
Hate is loud, but love is the majority.
This portion of Mississippi Live Weather is presented by Little's Jewelers.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
You're watching Mississippi Live Weather here at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. We're looking live out of our camera in Starkville there with a mix of clouds, but all mainly high and thin clouds at this time. Look at that little cross between where some jets flew with those contrails a little earlier on this evening. Here in the Room to Room Weather Center, as we talked about a minute ago, these are all flat. No vertical development, not going to see anything overly impressive out of these. So just honestly, the most impressive thing was the sunset we had a minute ago. Send in those pictures if you can using the Mississippi Live Weather app. We're so excited for all of you that, of course, have supported us and downloaded those. This could be the most likely impact we're going to see out of the system. And it's heavy rainfall. So you can see in the Saturday here, widespread rainfall likely, and some of that continuing the Sunday. This could be in some cases pretty hefty. We're talking amounts in excess of 3 inches. We show there Grenada and Kosciuszko. Listen, the exact locations, that's going to change depending on exactly where the heaviest part of this line moves in. But as you can see, widespread amounts that are significant, and even some spots just slightly south of us that could be even more significant. Those purples there, Yeah, that's definitely into yuck territory. So we're hoping that's not the case, but certainly heavy rainfall is probably the most likely severe weather threat we're going to have out of this. That's why it's the greatest confidence to see perhaps some rainfall amounts exceeding 3 inches. As you saw a moment ago, perhaps a bit more than that even. Hail, not particularly likely, nowhere near like what we had with our last system to come through. I think it's the wind gusts that we're most likely to see. A brief spin-up tornado, though, not impossible. So the wind gust potential as that line moves in, something we'll look at with our strike model. Again, something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live Weather here in a minute. So Saturday, here's our severe weather risk. It does include Oxford, Grenada, Kosciuszko, and locations back to the west for that level 2 risk. But even if you're in the green here, this just comes down to the number of reports. So still could have some damaging weather even all the way to the Mississippi-Alabama state line is just more likely, slightly back to the west. And I'd say the greatest likelihood, honestly, for something more significant, especially hail-wise, back there into Texas. Here's our severe weather risk, though, for your Friday. As you'll note here, all the west of us, there's the eastern edge and no locations in Mississippi included. I think even the green there, we're talking pre-dawn early Saturday morning before that is the case. Again, don't forget, by the way, that we have the time change this weekend where you spring forward an hour on that. So just one of those things to keep in mind. I was looking at that on my model a minute ago. I'm like, wait, why is that wrong? It's because of that. Active weather, though, that level 3 risk, again, a greater number of reports for today and for tomorrow back out on the plains. Here's why this all works out. Let's look at Storm Finder. And this is what it looks like here out to the west. Again, this is something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live and out there onto the plains where, again, those storms pretty highly likely, a great concentration of lightning strikes. Everything we're looking at, good likelihood to see severe weather. That's what that looks like. So we've kind of calibrated what this looks like for a moment. As you'll note here, as we go into early Saturday morning, again, calibrating that where those storms are strongest, certainly back out there onto the Arkansas and in the Mississippi Delta, where those storms are increasing in number. A lot of lightning out of these, still showing them pretty intense for early Saturday morning. As we go through Saturday midday, that line moves in. One of the peak time frames for you and I to see some thunderstorms probably is going to be midday Saturday into Saturday afternoon. And if that timing sounds different, this has slowed down a bit over the last 24 hours on our strike model. And so where we see some of those orange hills there, again, not as many lightning strikes as to the west. So again, one of those signs it's likely to be a little bit weaker, but we'll still have lightning and heavy rainfall depicted with these 4:35, 6 o'clock, shifting slightly southward. But one of the things I find interesting, and again, this new information coming in just in the last few minutes, that's the cool thing about our strike model. You and I get to look at it hot off the presses at the same time because the latest comes in during the 6 o'clock hour. And so we continue to show some of those scattered showers and thunderstorms still there in the evening time period. But notice by early Sunday morning here, south of Kosciuszko, that's where they are the strongest, just a little bit south of our area. So the takeaway is this. These with more orange, a little stronger than even what we have Saturday afternoon in the northern part of the state. It's one of the signs that fuel instability is going to be stronger to our south. And yeah, this again looks like a pretty hefty line there, and that's part of what produces those really, really high amounts of precipitation as all that active weather stays south into Sunday. We will look at triple threat and what those different projections, what strike models depicting there for hail, for wind, and for tornado rotation here in more detail in a minute. But I do want to walk you here hour by hour through this a little more so you can, for planning purposes, have an idea. So again, lots of southerly winds, moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico. That is that slightly more unstable air moving in. But overnight tonight, no issues there as far as any sort of active or severe weather is concerned. So by early Friday morning, we're 61 Boonville, Red Bay, Iuka, Tupelo for low temperatures. Obviously not low at all, considering that's 20 degrees above where we typically should be for this date in March. So we are way above our 30-year average for all locations. Again, going through your Friday, your school bus forecast. We're 61 at pickup there. And by the time we drop the kids off as the bus comes back in the afternoon, we could have a couple isolated thunderstorms. 30% might be overdoing that just a little bit. We'll show you why here in a second. But I do appreciate the good folks at IMPC for sponsoring our school bus forecast. So here is Futurecast. Notice it does not have a ton of activity as we go toward 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning here. As we go toward around midday, a few more of these isolated showers, maybe a rumble showing up back out toward Hollandale. We'll kind of pan our graphic here back to the west just a little bit, kind of show that a little more clearly there. But out in the Arkansas, a few and then getting a little heavier Oxford toward Eupora by around 3 p.m. So this is probably our peak time frame. And notice there are a lot of folks here where we do not have rainfall and some folks where we do. So this is around 20 to 30% on that rain coverage. And it could have an impact on perhaps the SEC baseball forecast for Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Again, we'll talk more about that coming up here in a couple minutes. But some rainfall there, not an impossibility for some of those games. Diminishing into the evening because first pitch of those games after the 6 o'clock hour. So highs on your Friday, 83 in Eupora, 81 degrees Starkville, Columbus, 81 in Amory, and 79 for Red Bay, Hamilton, 83 for Kosciuszko, and 84 in Greenwood. Our high school game of the week presented by Casey Lott. A Friday first pitch there, we're looking at 74. And notice we do have that limited chance for a couple of isolated showers still around. They should be diminishing into the evening. I think some will linger into the evening. And fingers crossed it's not over top of our location there. 71 by the 4th inning. I'll have a jacket that repels water just in case by the end of that game. We're hopeful, though, that all the showers have kind of collapsed by that point in time. On Friday, where will those be? I think the more significant weather is going to be back out here into Arkansas, as we talked about, back out well to the west of us, closer to our front. This front provides a lift for thunderstorms, and we'll move in as we go into Saturday. Ahead of that, we show a couple isolated showers popping up closer to Kosciuszko and Grenada by Friday evening. But again, those do not get particularly heavy on our scale there. 1:30 in the morning, these remain fairly isolated. Honestly, I'm a little surprised. A day or two ago, I would have expected to get primarily a line of thunderstorms moving in. That is one of the things that has changed. This is more cellular, meaning individual thunderstorms versus big, wide, long, complex. So that is a change over the last 24 hours, looking at Futurecast here, showing a slightly more cellular setup. Also, see how these storms extend back behind the front there? You could argue that maybe we need to adjust the positioning on our front just a little bit more. And either way, it has slowed down enough, and that's one of the factors that's leading us to believe that when we look at the severe risk for your Saturday, that we're going to get this around deeper into the afternoon and maybe closer to peak heating. And in that setup, that's where we have a greater chance to possibly see some damaging winds and maybe a brief tornado out of this, and maybe a few hail reports. But the severe risk, as you can see, Clarksdale, Cleveland, Greenwood, Grenada, Water Valley, Oxford, in that level 2 out of 5 risk based on the greater number of reports for some of those locations there. By your Saturday mid-morning, there's that line of thunderstorms coming in. Doesn't really cross over the Olive Branch and Memphis there until around noontime. We do get a few storms developing ahead of that, and these are fairly heavy. But when we kind of look at that, notice how we change models there. One of the things we talked about during our 5 o'clock broadcast is we do run out of data for our HRRR model, and we switch it over to our strike. We were talking about the positioning of these storms. And that's a better lineup versus what we had. So strike has slowed down. That meets the timing that the HRRR model has as well. So our projections, again, continuing to show a slower arrival. And that does lead these to be just a little bit more organized. A greater chance maybe have some wind gusts with it. But I want to go back here again one more time so you can see that switch over here as we look toward midday on Saturday. So note here, noontime. Now watch, I'm going to click this over and you'll see how it changes farther east. This was closer to, say, Houston, Tupelo, Bruce at 5 o'clock, so that has backed it a little bit, an important factor on how this all kind of plays out. But mainly this looks like heavy rainfall on a widespread scale with perhaps a few of these maybe deep enough and strong enough to produce a little bit of rotation. I think that's really pushing it unless something changes a little bit on this. I think there's a better chance, I'd say, south of us. Gusty wind, main impact, and honestly, kind of looking at this, maybe a little bit more hail than what I was thinking even at 5 o'clock. But more than anything, this is a lot of heavy rainfall. Now, one thing I notice on here, and again, this is just one projection at one time, does have a few of these getting a little heavier, closer to the Golden Triangle, closer to West Point by 3 to 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon. So that is a trend upward. And sometimes when we get kind of an east-west boundary like this, we can sometimes get, especially when you have it peak heating in the afternoon, couple storms to try to rotate closer to that boundary. So we're hoping that's not the case on this. But again, that's where that limited severe weather risk will come in this weekend. Some heavier storms down there closer to Yazoo City. That one definitely has a little more rotation to it. So that's where that non-zero tornado threat comes in. High temperatures on Saturday. You can see kind of the north and south difference there with that front. We're 76 Water Valley, 74 degrees Oxford, 73 in New Albany versus 80 in Louisville, 80 degrees there in Macon, and 79 in Vernon, Alabama. So widespread heavy rainfall as we go into Saturday evening. The question is, can the atmosphere reload? And I think it does south, where honestly, we haven't had a lot of thunderstorms until late Saturday night. And so this is where we get a zone here. See how this doesn't move? Watch how this hasn't really moved there from west of Canton and back closer to Philadelphia. See how that line just kind of stays put as we go hour by hour through this? That's that exact zone when we're looking at the heavy rainfall that it was kicking out some amounts in excess of 5 to 6 inches. We call that training. If that happens, there will be flooding rainfall issues that go along with that. The line shifting southward, again, mainly heavy rain producers there and mainly non-severe. 5:36, 7 o'clock early morning on your Saturday, and then sliding toward the south and east away from us. So 7-day forecast here. We're looking at 70% on that rain coverage on your Saturday. Again, widespread showers and thunderstorms likely out of this. Most will be below severe limits. Some could produce some damaging wind gusts, maybe a few hailstones, and a brief rotating thunderstorm possible. By Sunday, we're 72. By Monday, we're back up to 78 as we reprime the atmosphere. That next system moving toward us. By the middle of next week, looking more likely that we'll see some damaging storms, I think on a probably greater scale than what we're likely to deal with the next couple of days. But one thing you'll also notice looking at this entire 7-day forecast, we don't have any cool days out there. I mean, come on, it takes till probably late next week before temperatures get closer to our normal high for this time of year. Coming up at 60 seconds, something you'll catch only here on Mississippi Live Weather, we have triple threat next.
I know you're going through a lot. I wonder if you know that we can get help. Let's see how far we can go. Love, your mind.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
1 in 10 kids vape. Each vape pod can contain the same amount of nicotine as a pack of cigarettes.
The health class film guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk to your child about vaping today.
Welcome back to Mississippi Live Weather. Something you'll see only on Mississippi Live, our exclusive triple threat. We're going to pick things up late tonight, around midnight or so, and kind of go from there. Triple threat allows us to, on the same graphic, show rotation, show wind damage potential, and show large hail potential. I'll tell you, we have tweaked the colors. We're still trying to find the best way to show this so that it makes the most sense. The lines you see on top here, where it depicts the thunderstorms at, and when you see all of these little swaths, especially back there into Texas, this is where it has rotating thunderstorms, where you see in the pink there, where it has some large hail, where you see the reds, that's where it has rotation, or where rotation has gone. When you see the blues, that's where wind damage is most likely. So that is what triple threat looks like when it's produced active weather. Let's go through this and show you through time how this all plays out. So tonight, that level 3 severe weather risk for a greater concentration reports. You can see what that kind of looks like, a pretty decent concentration of reports back out on the plains for tonight. Into your Friday, not a ton of activity through 6 p.m. there, but late tomorrow night, that's when storms develop back out into Arkansas and could produce some wind damage of their own, some rotation, isolated tornado threat. Now, I'll tell you, triple threat is not impressed largely by what it sees out of the storm system to the west. I do think it's probably underdoing things a little bit there. You can see generally that line of thunderstorms that's left and some hail back to the west of us. As we go through Saturday, and again, we talked about this a moment ago as this line moved through, the isolated storms pretty heavy, and from time to time, you can see on there where it does depict perhaps some hail back out there closer to, say, Senatobia. That's where it's dropped a little bit of hail in the wake of those thunderstorms, a few spots there. But when I look at this, I don't see a lot of those red swaths associated with damaging rotation on this. So one thing I would say, kind of looking at this latest version of triple threat, this is not to say we won't have anything, but to say that at least at this distance out, we don't have those individual rotating thunderstorms that are as significant. So we don't expect to have a lot of reports of severe weather on your Saturday, but it's possible maybe we could have a couple. That is why our concern continues to be largely focused looking toward next week. And again, for some comparison here across the entire Magnolia State, a lot of heavy rainfall with what happens down there south. So let's look into next week. We kind of alluded to this a minute ago. We will continue to have some rainfall and thunderstorm chances into Monday, into Tuesday of next week. Again, our futurecast here, the farther you get out, the more likely we're to run into some error on this. But as you can see, into Tuesday, showing some scattered showers here. What we're really waiting on is our next storm system to get a little closer to us. It kind of shows up, I think, a little better even on the wide shot here. We're looking toward Texas there. That's where our cutoff low is, trying to throw more energy out toward us for locations, at least on this projection here, back out into Texas, where it's showing those thunderstorms there into your Wednesday, and then once again into your Thursday. Cutoff low pressure centers are traditionally very, very stingy on how quickly they move east. One of the reasons this one is not moving particularly quickly east as it comes through. Let's look at a combination here of upper level winds and the moisture that fuels thunderstorms. So this is looking at jet stream and fuel. And see how this gets pinched off, what we call a positively tilted trough. How it's kind of angled from the northeast back to the southwest. This is not one that's particularly great at producing severe weather. And for us, you can see the strong winds to help organize thunderstorms largely back to the north and west of us, as fuel remains most significant south. With those two things out of position, yes, we have a chance for storms on Saturday, but that's why we think heavy rainfall will be the main impact that those thunderstorms bring. But see that thing still spinning out west? That's that cutoff low pressure center. Looking toward Monday of next week. Looking toward Tuesday of next week. Still kind of spinning away back out there toward Texas. We have fuel in place here, and ahead of it, if it's able to kick out a little wave that maybe detaches from that upper level low, our storm chances would be more significant. We have the fuel. The question for next week is, do we have the upper level support to go with it? Because that thing, as you can see, day to day, even by Thursday, still solidly west of us. Friday, getting a little bit closer, fuel closer, but notice by the time it gets in here, we have less of those strong winds. They're all kind of up here farther north. So still some questions, thankfully revolving around next week's storm chances there. This looks a lot better for us than the severe weather chances did last night. So a little bit of an improvement as far as that is concerned. Still a greater high-end potential if that were to trend that direction, but something that we will definitely see as we get closer. I do want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor. Again, Gabe, one of the many things we're looking at on that, this is a look at the GFS. You've looked at Euro, we've looked at some other things here. Thoughts kind of on the transition from yesterday, solidly Wednesday, to trying to linger a little later now?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we're needing to monitor, still 7 days out. And so folks at the Storm Prediction Center, as well as us here at Mississippi Live Weather, needing more of that consistency to build confidence heading into the event. While the potential still remains, the timing, and of course timing could eventually impact the impacts, that's kind of what we're going to iron out as we head through tomorrow, as we head through the weekend, and really even into the start of next week before we start getting confidence into either this happening or potentially not happening. But again, we don't really have a tell one way or the other, but if we were just using what we have right there, we would say that there is definitely some possibilities for some of those strong storms. And
it's, again, with that trend later, that's a good sign. That's what we want to see. We don't want to see everything locking in on a time 7 days out. That's when we get really worried.
Yes.
That's one of the things working to our advantage. Because of the multiple severe weather threats, again, want to remind you about our weather call. It is a phone alert service that will let you know if there's a chance for active and severe weather. In particular, if there's a tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning issued for your area, it will call you. And phone alerts are important because they break, at least in my opinion, and what research shows, they break through the clutter of every other little bloop that comes through your phone. I mean, trust me, my phone goes off a lot, and I ignore every one of those. But my phone rings, I'm going to look at it. And that's the kind of thing that we need, is to get that brain to register for ourselves, for our kids, maybe for our grandkids, to let them know severe weather is possible. For $15 a year, you can sign up for our weather call. I'm going to bring Gabe back in here for a moment. And again, Gabe, one of the things that we are looking at is we are looking at sports, excited for what is coming as, again, high school playoffs are currently in action, right?
Yes, I feel like I've been watching high school playoff basketball for my whole life at this point, and it's only been about 3 days worth of coverage. And so the fact that we're talking about the semifinal action and now state championships happening as we speak means that this is the most exciting time now. As we do need to, of course, play it out. No, you're good. But we do have several state championship games happening. One of those being tonight, 6A action happening as we speak. For our folks up there in Northwest Mississippi, Olive Branch is down after the first quarter, 15-8 to Neshoba Central. But if you remember, our Ethan Foster, he picked Neshoba Central in this one, and he is currently 8-0. So as we head into tomorrow, we have 1A action, we have 4A action, we have 7A action. And that is where our Ethan Foster joins us now to let us know who he has coming out on top in those 1A matchups.
That's not in preview. You're going to have to hit the button.
Click play out.
Yeah.
The state high school basketball championships continuing on for 1A girls and boys. Of course, that happening Friday morning for the girls at 10 and the boys at noon. Starting off, we've got Ingomar versus Okolona for the girls' state championship in 1A. Take a look at these two teams you see here on the screen. Ingomar finished first in 1A Region 4 in the regular season. They've been averaging 60 points a game in the playoffs, on the higher end there. And a player to watch for them is Peyton Ray, been averaging 18 points a game. Let's take a look at Okolona now. Second in 1A Region 3 to finish the regular season. They've been averaging about 54 points per game in the playoffs. And something to note here is that Okolona lost 3 separate times to Ingomar in the regular season, and 2 of those losses were by just 2 points or less. And so, with that being said, who are we going to pick for the 1A Girls Championships? I'm going to be rolling with Ingomar to take home yet another state title, as they do so well. And let's take a look at the boys. Of course, competing at noon, we've got Calhoun City versus LaFleur County. The Wildcats of Calhoun City finished first in 1A Region 4 in the regular season. They've been averaging about 60 points a game in the playoffs. Player to watch for the Wildcats, actually 2 players to watch, Jalen Jackson and Caden Holland, 2 guys that we've seen throughout the season in some of our games of the week. I'm sure they're ready for a big game. And for LaFleur County, they finished the regular season first in 1A Region 6. They've been averaging about 66 points per game in the playoffs. And for them, player to watch, Mr. Imani Journey, been averaging 16.7 points per game. Might be a surprise pick here, but I'm actually going with LaFleur County to win this game. I love the Wildcats, but from what I'm seeing, I think LaFleur County has the edge here. We'll see how it goes. Of course, keep it tuned right here to Mississippi Live Sports. As always, I'm Ethan Foster. We'll see you again for more soon.
And Ethan picked, that was just one of our matchups heading into tomorrow, should I say, 2 of the matchups, but for just 1A. 4A following that, as well as 7A for the nightcap, and that is where Ethan will keep his picks going. We'll see if he goes 2-0 tonight with Neshoba Central, and I forget who he has for the boys matchup, but heading into tomorrow, of course, those games do tip off at 9 a.m. Should be a great time, and congratulations to all of our area teams for getting out there, showing up, showing out, and we could not be prouder here at Mississippi Live Weather. But Matt, if you are heading back towards Jackson, and if you're a team that did advance, well, the forecast shaping up to be a little bit stormy for some on that commute down there. So as we, of course, track that into tomorrow's forecast, that's the stormy weather for at least the start of it. But getting into Saturday, we have more of those matchups taking place. And that is unfortunately where if you're going to Jackson, pack that rain gear because it is going to be a stormy day and potentially a strong stormy day. So Matt, we're keeping eyes on that as we head further into the forecast, but we have a full breakdown on this and you have that for us.
Yeah, of course, coming up tonight at 10 here from the Room to Room Weather Center. We'll be looking at the very latest on our exclusive Storm Finder and Triple Threat. Also, we have an ability to kind of break down the rotation just by itself. We'll start looking at some of that a little more in the next couple of days, but I think it still remains next week with that greatest potential. One of the things we'll be breaking down here coming up at 10 o'clock. Before we go, do want to give the forecast this evening for the folks at the high school, basketball game there. Again, the folks, give me which is it again?
1, 4, and 7.
1, 4, and 7, 8 there tomorrow. If you're going down to Jackson for those games, a lot of folks probably already down there. It'll be warmer than it is up here, mid-80s and a few isolated showers and thunderstorms, a possibility there. Again, more on the sports, doing a little bit of that again with the high school playoffs and our game of the week as well, coming up at 10 p.m. Keep it here for the latest, and for Gabe, for Ethan, and myself, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. We'll see you then.
Growing up, Gabe was naturally curious when he began to discover weather. Gabe just didn't want to know what was happening, but he wanted to know why it was happening. Gabe became fascinated with tornadoes, and it impacted his life. He wanted to pursue a career in meteorology. Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.